All right,
Big
guys.
day today.
Big day today. Cut down day. I want to get into all that, but first, I am kind of interested in this. It's always interesting when former name players are asked about the Commanders. And if you remember the backdrop, it's been a while now. I think everyone's kind of over the Montez thing. You know, we're on new era.
Mm-hmm.
But he was very upset when they moved him. He felt like they gave up on him. I think he thought he was going to be here for a long time. But turns out he loves it in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about how he's had his first double-digit sack total, which is something he always wanted to do there in Chicago. And he says he believes he's in the right spot with the Bears. And, quote, it was a toxic, heavy toll. Just losing and people around you being kind of okay with losing. It could sometimes rub off on you. You got to stay hungry and know that you want to win. Didn't it just seem like, I'm sorry, I'm just going to blame Ron again, that Ron was just totally fine with losing? He just seemed totally comfortable with it.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
I don't know if he was comfortable. He didn't seem that upset.
Right.
I don't know if he wasn't happy they were losing.
I think but
he just didn't seem upset.
Kind of okay with losing.
But I think he knew the writing was on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely in the last year
he knew
phoned it in.
He knew it wasn't working. He knew Howell wasn't working. Bieniemy wasn't working. The defense sucked. I mean, he just knew, and he knew he was gone.
He
his
said,
own doing.
He said,
it's his own fault.
This is Sweat yesterday. The Chicago Sun-Times. I definitely made a transition to a better spot for me. This was my first Pro Bowl, first double-digit sack year, all those types of things. I reached some accolades that I always had aspirations of getting, but never reached in Washington. You could definitely say it worked out for me. So anyway, whatever. We'll see how good the Bears are. They had the number 1 pick,
right?
You know, in the draft. But I think they're clearly on a team on the rise to watch out for. The other guy, though, that had I don't think this is a terrible comment by any stretch, but Jahan Dotson is quoted, and the only part I could find is where he says he's asked about moving from Washington to Philly, and he says, quote, it's completely different. They have different standards, different ways of doing things. Now, I feel like this group, this staff, has much different standards and different ways of doing things than Ron's staff. I don't. Is he referring to the Ron years?
I don't think so.
Maybe
that
not.
wasn't my interpretation.
You think
he's joining a team that is a championship contender. I think that's really what he's alluding to, and it's an easy thing to say that when you join.
Yeah,
when
but
you go
he's
from
making
a team,
big point of saying it's completely different. So is he? I'm okay with him saying that the Ron culture was completely different standards, different way of doing things. Is he saying?
I think he means expectations, at least for the short term. Like, nobody expects the Commanders to make any sort of playoff run or impact, and the Eagles should be one of the favorites in the NFC.
Now,
I think that's what he's
okay.
I think that's what he's
Or
touching
maybe he's just he's equating the two styles just based on the fact that they didn't want him. So maybe he's blaming them too.
Well, remember, Brian.
Because they didn't want him.
Brian is never going to call him out by name, but he's acknowledged that when he saw bad body language with guys, Jahan was one of those guys. And I think it was probably he saw the writing was on the wall that he didn't have a big role with this team.
Mm-hmm.
There's another guy, and I'll just say for the record, Brian is not the person that told me this, but there's another guy who I was told had some kind of dicey body language, and today could be a tough day for him, and that's Chris Rodriguez. If you've noticed, he hasn't had a very big role with this group.
I thought he was all right in the final preseason game.
He was decent in the game against the Pats.
Yeah,
he was in the final game, but what I was told is he's been a guy that hasn't been super. His body language hadn't been great throughout camp because he hasn't had a big role.
I mean, he's a backup. He shouldn't have that big of a role.
Well, there are other guys that they seem to like ahead of him.
Maybe
I'm not guaranteeing Rodriguez is going to have a spot on the roster. If they don't like
San
him,
Francisco guy, obviously.
They're moving Kaz Allen, putting him in running back. They're putting McCaffrey at running back.
This front office and coaching staff, they're moving former first-round picks. So, of course, if they don't like Rodriguez or they like other guys better that are competing against him, they'll cut him. They have no affinity for him. They didn't select him.
I completely agree. I'm just telling you, that's it. That's a guy that I've heard that also hasn't been super thrilled with his usage.
Getting back to Dotson for just a second, I mean, he's got to compete with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith for targets. Those guys had 270 of those last year. Then they add Saquon Barkley to the backfield. That's a guy who's going to soak up targets too.
Yep.
Dallas Goedert.
If he can stay healthy.
Is he the clear number 3, or is he going to compete for number 3?
I don't know.
Who's behind him on the depth chart? I noticed the names the other day. I've forgotten already. And they weren't like pushovers. Like I'd heard of them.
My point is,
the current depth chart.
He has a tough path to getting
He's not
a
going
lot
to
of
get
balls thrown his way.
Well, they drafted Johnny Wilson out of Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was a 3rd or 4th rounder. They got Paris Campbell, and they got Britton Covey. I haven't heard of him.
Okay, but Paris Campbell's not terrible.
He's not, but he has a hard time staying healthy. He's had an injury-riddled career.
Yeah, but they drafted 2 receivers. Actually, Wilson was drafted in the 6th round. Anaya Smith, who was drafted out of Texas A&M. So they got 2 young guys, and they got the 2 studs, above them.
Maybe that's the best role for him at this point in his career. Maybe he's just overdrafted and isn't a number 2 wideout on a team. Maybe he's a number 3/slot type of wideout that plays a smaller role. We'll see how it works out.
I think,
and by the way, guys get hurt all the time.
Of course,
yeah.
He's going to have opportunities.
Right.
He'll have some opportunities, no doubt. But I'm not sure as a primary. I don't think his days as a primary threat.
I
think those days are over.
Yeah. But I will say this, and I think it's important to know that coaches can make a star out of anybody they want.
Sure.
They can highlight a guy to justify and feed him balls all day and highlight him. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen with Brown and Smith in front of him.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be tough.
All right, so it's cut down day, and let's just go through some of the positions. It's not that hard, I don't think, really, to go through it. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, that they take 25 on offense, 25 on defense, and then you got your 3 special teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a fair assumption. Maybe it's 26-24, but let's just say 25-25. They're probably going to keep just 2 quarterbacks. That seems to be the trend. I feel like I know they're going to stash Hartman somehow, and I'm telling you, I think.
But they could put Hartman on like a pup.
I think he might be on a season-long IR. Or
there's a possibility of that, yeah.
And then Driscoll, I think, deserves a spot on the practice squad, but maybe not. We'll see what happens there. But that all won't flesh itself out for a couple days, probably. So Jaden and Mariota, Drav, I got to tell you, man. I know you're a Mariota guy. The fan base is not enamored with Mariota.
He's a Mariota guy.
Yeah. A Mariota guy.
Yeah.
Well, they don't understand game management.
They don't know nuance.
Yeah, they don't know the nuance of it. He's going to protect the ball and keep you in the game if he's in there.
By the way, I saw.
Were you that impressed by Driscoll the other day?
He had the interception. It wasn't his best outing.
I don't understand it. Why is everyone hyping him
I don't
up?
understand.
He
I don't understand the Driscoll hype
I think because he had the long scramble in week 2.
That's what he can do. He can
No,
run.
I've also been
Look at
impressed with some
Mariota.
of his throws and some of his reads.
He's been a horrible quarterback when it comes to playing in the regular season.
I agree,
Yeah.
but I'm not
Throughout
letting
his
that
career.
bias me. I'm not letting that bias me. I'm
You
just
don't let
looking.
his past performance
You're
bias
letting-
you at all?
you're
I'm just
letting a
looking at
preseason-
his results and going, he deserves. I'm not saying he should start. I'm saying he should be on the practice squad. I'm saying he deserves.
If Jeff
an
Driscoll was
opportunity.
ever starting, the season's over.
I just
if you're just talking about making a team and having a spot, that's.
I just think there are 500 Jeff Driscolls out there just floating around.
Think of it like
whatever
this.
you want.
It's week 15 in the season. Jaden Daniels has a sore ankle.
Yeah.
He can't come out for the second half of the game. You're fighting for the division. Would you rather have Marcus or Driscoll coming out for the second half to try and steal the game?
Put it this way, I haven't seen anything from Mariota that intrigues me.
I think
barely
they're both bad options.
He just has a
personally,
better
but
resume.
I
far
agree.
better resume.
I agree. I'm not stupid. I'm just telling you when he can run. He's big and strong, and he throws a way nicer ball than I thought. I don't know. He's just way better than I thought.
When have you seen Mariota?
Very little.
Yeah,
Very
you're making
little.
a judgment on a guy you haven't seen. You're just hearing rumblings.
No, I'm not basing it
Mariota
on the
can
rumblings.
do all those things.
Here's the one thing I don't do, Drab, is base anything on rumblings. Everything is here. I'm basing it on.
Well, you haven't seen Mariota.
I saw him play a series. It was abysmal, and every time I see him throwing in the net, he misses the box. Every time.
All right. We're talking about backup quarterbacks here.
I know.
What are we
He
arguing about?
misses the little box in the net all the time.
Driscoll has a 58.6% completion percentage in his career.
I'm not
That
saying
is horrendous.
I know. I'm just telling you. There's a reason why he's survived.
And-
This song. The guy's an elite athlete. He's a great athlete.
For all of you quarterback wins guys, he's 1-10.
Yeah. Well, he's been on bad
That-
teams
just to-
too, right?
just to let
What
it-
are the teams he's been on?
He's been on Cincinnati, Detroit, Denver, Houston, and Cleveland. He's also
Yeah.
been on every team in the league.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
He
So why do they
stinks.
keep signing him?
Because he's a camp body.
Because he's a camp. Well, he's 6'4".
Well, because he's a
And he can
he's
run.
a very good athlete.
That's
all.
fine. He's just a bad NFL
right, I don't
quarterback.
I agree with
I
you
don't
though,
care.
Cakes. Dime a dozen. Like I saw yesterday,
Dime a
Will
dozen.
Greer got cut.
Yeah.
Right. Will Greer's already been on like 7 teams.
Right. These guys are
I'm
they're
just
all
intrigued.
floating
You guys
out
want
there.
everybody to be a Pro Bowler. It's not realistic.
I'm not saying that. I'm just
All right.
saying
Running
he's-
back. Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler, they're locks. The question is third running back. What are the options?
McNichols, Rod, Michael Wiley.
Michael Wiley.
They seem to like Wiley. So I think that who knows where that could go. I don't know. Could be McNichols, could be Wiley.
Oh, they're definitely going to keep 3.
They're definitely going to keep 3.
Yeah.
Wide receivers, the standard number typically is like 6. McLaurin lock, Brown lock, Oz lock, McCaffrey lock. Then it comes down to who are the other guys going to be.
I think it's going to be Crowder.
I think it should be Crowder.
And who knows about
I mean, Bryant caught a touchdown, had a couple of pass interferences. He's the one guy that stands out in terms of his physicality,
Yeah.
his size.
I
don't
think
know,
you
maybe
could
they-
make the argument for him to be the last guy on there because of his size and experience.
Maybe
Good
they
red
keep-
zone target.
But they do like Tremaine.
Yeah.
He was sort of the Mitchell Tinsley of this year's camp, who made a bunch of plays early on. Didn't really do a ton in the preseason games. So I think it comes down to Tremaine and Bryant.
What about Pringle?
Pringle, I actually think also has a shot at making it.
Yeah.
So maybe they
But I
somehow
think
keep
Crowder's
7.
going to definitely be. So I think he's going to return punts.
The problem is they haven't used them. They're trying to see if anybody else can
Well,
do
they were
it,
trying
so
to
they
see
don't
if
have to keep 'em.
McCaffrey could do. I don't think McCaffrey's going to return
McCaffrey's
punts.
too green for that, I
Yeah.
think. Tight ends, if they keep 4, I think Cole Turner can survive. If they keep 3, trouble.
Yeah, dicey for him.
But I think they might need 4 because I think what I'm hearing is they're going to run a lot of 2 tight end sets, right? So if they do that, they're probably going to need that 4th tight end, which might
I would be
bode
surprised
well
if
for
they
him.
kept 4.
you would, yeah.
Yeah.
3 might be.
I
the
think
number.
Zach Ertz is going to be heavily involved as long as he's
Till
healthy.
he breaks down.
Yep.
All right, tackles, offensive linemen. This is where I just defer to who's been playing the most.
Mm-hmm.
And then guys where they're drafted. So Coleman has been hurt. Wiley,
Did Coleman play one play in the preseason?
I'm not sure that he did.
I don't think.
Wiley,
a lot of hype.
Lucas, Trent Scott. Those are your tackles potentially. Guard, Cosme, obviously. Then it gets interesting. I mean, Allegretti, I assume.
Yep, starter.
But then, I mean, are they going to keep Chris Paul? He hasn't been overwhelming.
Stromberg.
Some of these guys are versatile, so maybe they will. They have that position flex that Ron always talked about. And then
How'd that work out?
Then center, I assume Badash, and I don't know anything about Michael
Biotish.
Biotish. I don't know anything about Michael Dieter.
Oh.
Um,
Or Tom Cameron.
let's just real quick. I know Cakes we're
Or Cameron
All
Tom.
good.
Let's go defense.
Can I really make a mistake?
Who are they going to keep there at tackle? Obviously, Payne and Allen. Johnny Newton, he's another one who's been injured.
Mathis could be let go.
It's either Mathis or Ridgeway. I always think that Ridgeway's flashed more, but Mathis did have a good final game. I don't know if that's enough, though.
Do they keep 3 or 4 tackles?
I think they're going to keep 4.
All right. So those probably Payne, Allen, Ridgeway, Newton.
Mathis has a fighting shot.
He's got a shot.
All right, defensive ends, Dorrance Armstrong, Cleveland Farrell, the new guys I brought in. KJ Henry's definitely distinguished himself at times.
He's
He's
there.
definitely making it. Yeah.
Fowler in.
I don't know about these other guys. I don't know about Devontae Jean Baptiste. Andre
He made a
Jones
play
Jr. made a
in
couple
the
plays.
preseason.
That could those could be your 5 outside linebackers. Obviously, everyone's raving about Frankie Louvu, Dante Fowler, veteran they brought in, and then that's where they could stash Jamin. Although I think they'll mostly play him at end when they do play him, and then middle linebacker. Bobby Wagner, obviously.
Frankie Louvu's my boy, by the way.
That's your guy?
He's my neighbor.
I know he's your neighbor. Have you had any
I was walking the
interactions
dog
with
the
him?
other day, and I saw him drive by, and I just went, "What's up?"
Okay.
And he honked.
He honked at
He
you?
honked.
Give you a quick tap?
Yeah,
How ripped is he? Could you tell?
No, he was in his tinted windows.
Right.
Yeah.
But I know what
He's
truck he drives,
Very ripped.
and it's got Carolina tags on his
Right.
truck.
Right.
Needs to switch those up to VA tags.
That's my boy.
Does he drive a Raptor? Silly Raptor?
I don't know what kind it is. I should have looked.
I thought you said you know what kind of truck he drives.
I mean, just a big pickup truck, but
Okay.
huge wheels. It could have been a Raptor. I
All
don't
right.
know.
The other question is Jordan McGee at middle linebacker. So we'll see there. Corners: St. Juste, Forbes, Michael Davis, Sanistril, and then I guess Igbanana Haney. Is that how you say his name? Cakes.
Sure.
He could be the fifth. And then safety, a projection: Chin,
Quan.
Percy Butler, Jeremy Reeves, Derek Forrest, and everyone's been talking about Tyler Owens.
Yeah.
So that could be it. And then we'll just assume that the kicking situation is what it is right now. Trust obviously a lock. They don't have anybody else. I don't think they're going to cut Cade. Did they give Cade any guaranteed money? Did he sign a multi-year deal? I think he
I'd
did
have to
sign.
look and see.
Didn't he sign like a 2-year deal? Maybe not. And then, of course, they have their long snapper who they seem to be pleased with, and Tyler Ott. So I don't know. It was the tough day for guys today. They have until 4 p.m. to trim their rosters, and then there will be some fluidity. Guys will make it, and then they'll be moved. I mean, it's going to be a lot of stuff going on.